Jake MacDonald, Chapter 8, Segment 2 Outline. Classical conditioning is a basic form of learning in which a neutral stimulus is repeated following by another stimulus that normally elicits a response, until the formerly neutral stimulus now elicits that response. Imprinting is the behavior by which birds and other animals are predisposed to follow any moving object that they see shortly after hatching. Some behaviors are more easily learned by one species than another. This is due to biological constraints on learning. One example of a biological constraint on learning is that researchers believe humans may be biologically prepared to learn language when they are born. Thus, they learn to communicate very quickly. Fear conditioning is a type of classical conditioning in which a previously neutral stimulus is repeatedly paired with a painful stimulus until the subject shows fearful responses to the first stimulus. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, can be understood to be a result of fear conditioning. A phobia is a marked, long-lasting fear of an object or situation that is out of proportion to the real danger. Dangerous items such as weapons or natural disasters are not considered phobias. Edward L. Thorndike famously studied cats and dogs in puzzle boxes. Puzzle boxes are cages equipped with levers and latches so that an animal must open a door to escape. Throughout his studies, Thorndike discovered that the animals learned and were able to open the box more quickly after getting it the first time. However, the evidence of learning was gradual and hit or miss. This led Thorndike to overall conclude that animals solve the puzzle boxes through trial and error with random movements. Thorndike then proposed the law of effect, which is the notion that any behavior that results in a satisfactory outcome is more likely to recur in the future. Thorndike was content in regarding the brain as a single unit that could be studied without ever opening it. This is known as a black box perspective. Behaviorism is the perspective that psychologists should study only observable behavior and not subjective mental elements. The extreme version of this, known as radical behaviorism, considers children to be blank slates that can be molded. This was believed by the famous behaviorist John B. Watson. Another famous behaviorist is B. F. Skinner. He believed in operant conditioning, which is a form of associative learning where the likelihood that an act will be performed depends on the consequences that will follow. Skinner put animals in cages where animals could learn to do a simple task, such as press a bar, to obtain a reward. These were known as operant conditioning chambers, or Skinner boxes. Skinner used reinforcers to encourage his subjects. A reinforcer is a stimulus that appears in response to behavior and increases the probability of that behavior recurring. Shaping is the process by which a subject is readily provided with a reinforcer whenever the subject comes close to showing the desired behavior, and then is required to come closer and closer to that desired behavior before receiving the reinforcer. Classical conditioning is also linked to superstitions such as tapping home plate a specific way every time a batter comes up in baseball. A superstition is the false belief that a particular behavior will bring about a stimulus or event. Positive reinforcement is the addition of a stimulus following a behavior, increasing the likelihood of that behavior, while negative reinforcement is the removal of a stimulus while following a behavior, increasing the likelihood of that behavior.